A zero-sum cycle. Capitalism. Before I begin, I just want to say, to keep this research live and bypass the noise, please signal the algorithm by liking and subscribing to the audit. Now, let's define what a zero-sum is. A situation where one's gains are only accomplished through someone else's loss. Basically, capitalism, where the free market relies on debt to enslave and control populations. In a final act of survival, it collapses into a full-blown technocracy. A technocracy differs from a capitalist system. As opposed to slavery through debt, it functions on enslavement through energy management, essentially the scientific control of everyone and everything. Again, I am citing Hughes in his book, COVID-19, Psychological Operations and the War for Technocracy, how he alludes to World War III being more discreet and also resulting in large sums of loss, just as its predecessors did, be it homes, infrastructure, or life itself. A future where the elite, few, are at war with the masses. Part 1. Identifying who these elites are. The ruling class of the world. These are the 1% of the 1%. Approximately 70,000 people. Families and so on. Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, Rockefellers. Institutions such as the World Economic Forum and the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission, a non-governmental organization that was founded with the intent of increasing cooperation across 3 industrial fronts: North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Focusing on North America alone, it has been a revolving door of former heads of state, people in high positions who shaped or influenced the power structure and hierarchy of their respective end of the global society. Known corporate executives, CEOs, bankers, and such. Intelligence operatives. Those who have worked for agencies that asserted dominance over our minds, shaping the reality we perceive through mimetic entropy, high and low entropy, purity or impurity of ideas. Reality becomes a commodity that is easily redefinable, malleable, and mutable through the technocratic infrastructure employed by these elites. Human beings become a medium for advanced software. No. In fact, I'd say human beings were already the medium. Silicon, an even faster, newer medium to compound what already was. Part 2. Neuro-warfare. Neuroscientist and veteran Dr. James Giordano has seminars that can be found all throughout YouTube and beyond, often exploring concepts and theories regarding the future battleground, our minds. Much of it overlaps with Hughes' omnivore position. In fact, Dr. Hughes has cited Dr. Giordano in his works. It is not just the verbal linguistic protocols that we are familiar with. It is also the protocols and mechanisms of quantum mechanics, molecules that sustain the form and shape of matter, organic entities such as ourselves, carbon-based beings. Now, the gray matter existing within our skulls. the quantity of neurons nearly as expansive as the universe we know and perceived. In order to preserve the planet and hoard its resources, the established order, the 1% of the 1%, they will avert rampant nuclear warfare in favor of the neural landscape. An accelerant system is desired to expedite the advent of cyberspace, as we have seen in fiction. Augmented reality plus virtual reality are the beginning. Palmer Luckey had gone as far as to create a VR system with fatal consequences. We will be pitted against each other, convinced that there is not enough to go around with respect to resources, convinced that the people in power, the institutions, and so forth, that they deserve it all. Our minds will be at their mercy through a highly fine-tuned linguistic system, subroutines that render us without will, NPCs. This is where the concept of strategic latency enters the loop. In the technocratic framework, your brain is no longer a private sanctuary. It is a node in a high-frequency trading environment. By utilizing Neuro-ST to monitor collective stress responses or sentiment at a biological level, the elite can front-run social change before it even reaches the level of conscious thought. It is the ultimate zero-sum maneuver. They gain the ability to predict the future by actively engineering the neural conditions that create it. When James Giordano speaks of neuro-proxies, he is describing a world where your very impulses are harvested to balance the ledgers of a transnational class that has already moved beyond the need for your consent. You aren't just losing your privacy, you are losing the lead time required to form a counter-response. Part 3. The NPC Paradox. How can we know if we are slaves to this? Perhaps the best way to know and see is through historical observation. The data, the stats, and other sources and examples of individuals who attempted to peer through the veil of reality. The chain of assassinations currently occurring across the scientific community. Figures, leaders, and even prophets, all suddenly unalived. When you question the system of laws and reality, you become a constant that needs to be deleted. If not, then you, and by you, I mean us, are subjected to living as NPCs, non-playable characters who repeat key phrases or terms to keep the greater machine of civilization oiled and lubed up for more turns. To keep the system of the reality we live in, the zero-sum cycle, optimal. First, we were sold on a dream of meritocracy. Then we are blamed when it fails. Then we are told that an elite minority deserves it more. What is the NPC paradox? Knowing, but doing nothing about it because we know it also works. It did for a time, at the very least, and it did so very well. The NPC paradox is when you are so finely tuned to say, I am doing great, on a shitty day when greeted. It is those moments you tell yourself, you tell your distressed friend, everything happens for a reason. Sayings and phrases, political slogans. We know them all. We follow it because it used to work so well. Part 4. A lie so huge that ordinary people would not imagine it to be impossible. The Austrian painter's big lie is as insightful as it is malicious. He posited this idea in his manifesto, creating an effective model for malicious institutions to come and arise thereafter. Perhaps they were there to begin with. Take a moment to think about something big, then take a moment to ponder over its factual origin. It can be anything that comes to mind that is universally accepted in all social strata of your community and beyond. Hughes says it well as he points out different examples. For instance, the idea is that if a lie is big enough and driven by sufficiently powerful propaganda, the masses will not think to question it. I can hash out the agenda from the political perspective, but many other creators already do this and that more effectively than I. No, what I am pointing out and studying are the tools being used to assert these agendas. The technology of language and its subsequent mimetic entropy. A meme is more powerful if you are in a highly suggestive state. If you trust the information source, if that source is able to get a strong reaction from you, then the meme will successfully embed itself within your neural pathways. It will form new beliefs and programs in your mind. A big lie backed by billions of dollars in high-value currencies asserted by people with high-ranking credentials will not be questioned. If repeated via propagandic messaging enough times, it becomes who we are. We can unpack this mimetic system of shaping mass identity by observing how movements function. Always beginning with a small group, then branching out and mutating into something that serves the original small group. Where the masses are mimetically replicated components of the original core group, that core reaps all the profits and benefits of their labor. Part 5, a commercial cult example. According to the research of Dr. Stephen Hassan, corporations such as Amway functions as a destructive commercial cult, utilizing undue influence to harvest the behavior and finances of its members. This is a purely zero-sum maneuver. The organization acquires total loyalty and capital, while the individual surrenders the objective lead time required for critical thought. Hassan's BITE model identifies the use of sensory overload and sleep deprivation during high-intensity events to bypass cognitive filters and reprogram the subject's reality to serve the group's predatory financial objectives. The mechanical evidence of this cultic structure's integration into the state is found within the Trilateral Commission North American membership list. Steve Van Andel, the chairman of Amway, sits as a formal member of the North American group, placing the leadership of a commercial cult in direct strategic contact with architects of global policy like Anthony Blinken or Jake Sullivan. This proximity suggests that the Amway model of high control social engineering is not an outlier, but a core component of broader geopolitical management. The presence of Steve Van Andel alongside figures such as Banga of the World Bank and Larry Fink of BlackRock confirms a revolving door between cultic business models and global governance. As Hassan notes, these These organizations systematically destroy the self-esteem of their victims to prevent resistance against financial fleecing. When this methodology is scaled through the Trilateral Commission, the result is a Technocratic steering committee that views the general population as a harvestable demographic within a closed loop. Zero-sum economic cycle. Information control remains the primary tactical weapon. Amway members are conditioned to disregard negative outside research and listen only to successful uplines, a localized version of the control loops managed by the Trilateral Commission, with media figures like Andrea Mitchell of NBC News embedded in the same commission. The big lie is maintained at a civilizational scale. The demand for unquestioning obedience within the Amway structure serves as a psychological primer, conditioning the population to accept the increasingly authoritarian mandates of a technocratic state. Ultimately, the synthesis of Hassan's mind control theories and the trilateral membership reveals Amway as a tool for strategic latency. By maintaining a massive, disciplined, and suggestible network of distributors, the elite hold a social engineering proxy capable of activating specific economic or political narratives on command. This is the realization of what Dr. James Giordano terms Neuro-Proxies, a biological circuit where the NPC paradox is total and individuals actively participate in their own enslavement because the system is the only reality they are permitted to perceive. The suggestive state. Now, towards the end, I deviated a bit from the contents of the video and went deeply into an example of how memes are embedded into our minds. Commercial cults differ from their conventional counterparts such that they run more like a business than a religion, where religious motifs are mimetically propagated unto their respective populations. These cults and organizations replicate the Austrian painter's model of creating big lies and embedding them into suggestive minds. The suggestive state I mentioned is basically where all cognitive walls are brought down via deprivation of sensory functions. Such deprivation includes food, sleep, and other general resources, where such resources are shunned by the 1% of the 1%, creating a positive feedback loop that drains people of basic necessities, allowing those 1%ers to hoard those same necessities. To summarize, when you only sleep 2 hours because it seems cool, and you eat what you were told to eat by cult leaders or government officials, you start to see or hear shit that isn't really there. Moreover, you start to believe in things that you normally wouldn't. In this state, your brain becomes open season for mimetically entropic protocols. We become NPCs. The American school system, government institutions, anything else you can think of is just a neuroproxy of that meme. Now, with that said, thank you for watching. To keep this research live and bypass the noise, please signal the algorithm by liking and subscribing to the audit. Thanks again.